The bell above the coffee shop door chimed softly as Ethan Walker stepped inside, shaking rain from his jacket and tightening his grip on his daughter's small hand. Morning rush hour was thinning, but the place still hummed with low conversations, steaming cups, and the comforting smell of roasted beans. For Ethan, this cafe had become a small sanctuary, cheap refills, a corner table near the window, and just enough calm before the rest of the day demanded more than he felt he had to give. 6-year-old Lily skipped ahead, her red backpack bouncing. She loved this place because the barista always drew a smiley face on her hot chocolate cup. Ethan loved it because for 15 minutes, life felt normal. No overdue bills, no reminders of how fast everything had fallen apart after his wife passed away 3 years earlier. Just a dad, a daughter, and a warm drink. They settled into their usual table. Ethan checked his phone. Another rejection email from a job application he'd sent out the night before. He locked the screen, forcing a smile as Lily told him about a spelling test she was sure she aced. He listened carefully, nodding, asking questions, anchoring himself to her excitement. That's when the tension shifted. Across the cafe, a woman sat alone at a small round table. She wore a simple beige coat, her dark hair pulled back loosely, eyes focused on her laptop. Nothing about her screamed wealth or power. She looked tired, thoughtful, maybe a little sad. A man in an expensive-looking suit stood too close to her, his posture aggressive, his voice low but sharp enough to cut through the room. Ethan noticed the way her shoulders stiffened. "You could at least have the decency to talk to me," the man snapped. "I've said everything I need to say," the woman replied calmly, though her fingers trembled slightly on the coffee cup. The man scoffed, pulling out a chair without asking and sitting down. "You don't just walk away from a conversation like that." A few customers glanced over, then quickly looked away. No one wanted trouble. Ethan felt that familiar knot in his chest, the one that always appeared when he saw someone being cornered and the world choosing silence. Lily tugged his sleeve. "Daddy, that man is being mean." Ethan swallowed. He wasn't a big guy. He didn't have money or influence. He had responsibilities and very little margin for risk. But he also had a daughter watching him, learning who to be from what he did next. He stood. "Hey," Ethan said, his voice steady but not loud. "She asked you to leave her alone." The man turned slowly, eyes scanning Ethan from head to toe, taking in the worn jacket, the scuffed shoes, the child at his side. A smirk curled his lips. "This doesn't concern you." "It does when you're harassing someone in public," Ethan replied. "You're making her uncomfortable." The cafe fell quiet. The woman looked up, surprise flickering across her face, followed by something softer, relief, maybe. The man stood abruptly, chair scraping against the floor. "You have no idea who you're talking to." Ethan shrugged. "I don't need to. I just know you need to step away." For a moment, it felt like the air itself was holding its breath. Then the barista cleared her throat and said, "Sir, if there's a problem, I'll have to ask you to leave." The man glanced around, realizing the attention was no longer on his terms. With a sharp laugh, he straightened his jacket. "Fine, this isn't over." He shot the woman a final glare before storming out. The door slammed shut. A murmur rippled through the cafe as normalcy slowly returned. Ethan sat back down, his heart pounding harder than he wanted to admit. Lily squeezed his hand proudly. The woman stood and approached their table. Up close, Ethan noticed her. Eyes, sharp, intelligent, carrying the weight of someone used to being in control but rarely protected. "Thank you," she said quietly. "You didn't have to do that." "Yeah, I did," Ethan replied. "No one deserves that." She smiled, genuine and warm. "I'm Claire." "Ethan, this is Lily." Lily waved shyly. "Hi." Claire laughed softly. "Hi, Lily. Your dad is very brave." Ethan felt his ears warm. Just doing what anyone should. They exchanged a few more words, nothing heavy. Claire insisted on paying for their drinks before leaving, despite Ethan's protests. At the door, she paused and looked back at him as if committing his face to memory. "I hope I run into you again," she said. Ethan smiled politely, assuming it was just something people said. 3 days later, a sleek black car pulled up outside Ethan's small rented house just as he was helping Lily with homework. He frowned through the window. Cars like that didn't come to his street. A man in a tailored suit stepped out and rang the bell. "Yes," Ethan asked cautiously. I'm here on behalf of Ms. Claire Bennett, the man said. She'd like to speak with you. Ethan's mind raced. He followed the man outside, where the car door opened to reveal Claire, elegant, composed, and completely out of place on his cracked sidewalk. Hi, Ethan, she said with a smile. What's going on? He asked. I wanted to thank you properly, Claire replied, and explain some things. They sat inside the car as rain began to fall again. Claire took a breath. The man at the cafe was my former business partner. He didn't take our separation well. She paused. I'm the CEO of Bennett Global. Ethan blinked. He'd heard of it. Everyone had. You're a billionaire, he said flatly. Claire smiled sheepishly. Yes. Ethan leaned back, stunned. Then why? Why were you alone in a coffee shop dealing with that yourself? Because money doesn't stop people from trying to intimidate you, she said. And because sometimes I just want to be normal. Ethan nodded slowly. I've met a lot of people who are kind to me because of who I am, Claire continued. You were kind because of who you are. You stood up without knowing anything about me. That matters. So what is this? Ethan asked. A thank you. Partly, she admitted. And partly, I'd like to get to know you better. No pressure. No obligations. Ethan thought of Lily, of the life he was building piece by fragile piece. I don't really fit into your world. Claire met his gaze. Maybe I don't want my world. Maybe I want something real. They started slowly. Coffee turned into walks at the park. Lily adored Claire, who never talked down to her, who listened and laughed and showed up. Claire never flaunted her wealth. She wore jeans, helped with homework, and sat on the floor playing board games like it was the most important meeting she had all week. Ethan learned that behind the power and success was a woman who had spent years surrounded by people who wanted something from her. He offered her something she hadn't had in a long time: honesty, warmth, and a home that felt safe. When rumors began to circulate, when headlines hinted at the billionaire CEO dating a struggling single dad, Claire didn't hide him. She stood beside him. I didn't choose him because he saved me, she told a reporter once. I chose him because he showed my daughter what courage looks like. She smiled and corrected herself. What courage looks like to a child. Life didn't turn into a fairy tale overnight. Ethan kept working, kept striving, refusing handouts. Claire respected that. She supported without controlling. They built something steady, something earned. One evening, months later, Ethan returned with Lily to the same coffee shop.